Hallo, meine lieben Studentinnen und Studenten. I want to give you guys an overview of the basics of German grammar. So if you don't know some of the grammar terms, I'll go over those in this video, and by the end you'll have a decent idea of the basic parts of a language, the basic kinds of words, and how they work in German as compared to English. So I want to start with nouns. Nouns are words that signify a person, place, or thing. You can have proper nouns like the United States of America or Deutschland. Those are things you would capitalize because they're names. In German, you have, proper nouns still, of course, and they are capitalized, but for nouns that are not proper, just regular old nouns like Tag, day, or car, auto, these nouns have a gender. This is not gender like biology or identity, totally different, not related to humans and human beings at all. It just means that they have a grammatical group that they belong to. And these are represented by masculine, feminine, and neuter. And then plural nouns are also treated differently. So you have those 4 different categories that are important for when you're using nouns. Now, in German, masculine, the, is der. Then you have a different form of the, die, for feminine. You have das for neuter. And then plural is die, just like the feminine. So these 4 different categories are going to tell you which form of the word the to choose, and also which form of the word a or my to choose. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the course. But you should know that nouns in German are capitalized whether they are proper or not. So for example, das Auto, the car. The A in auto is capitalized. In all cases, das Video, V is capitalized. So that's one clue for when you're reading. It can really help you figure out what's what. If it's capitalized, it's probably a noun. Okay, so those are the nouns. There are cases in German, which means that there are grammatical roles and endings that you put on words like the and a that change depending on whether the noun fills the subject role or the object role. And that gets a bit complicated, but we're starting with the very basics here. So everything that you hear me talk about in this video with like der, die, das, and die, that's all the most basic case. It's called nominative. It's just like regular case. So if you have a subject like meine Lieblingsfarbe ist blau, meine, that's a feminine because the word Farbe is feminine. So meine Lieblingsfarbe, that's just regular nominative, feminine. Okay, so that covers nouns. Now we'll move on to verbs. When you have verbs in German, you're going to get different conjugations, just like you would in English. So you have English, I go, you go, but he goes. And then you get back to we go and they go. So the third person singular form is really the weird one in English. In German, they have different forms for the different pronouns, which you guys have learned about already, and you've learned about the basic verbs haben and sein. If not, go back and watch that video. So for regular verbs, you get a certain pattern of endings. It's called conjugation, when you put a different ending on the end of a verb to make it match its subject. So if you say, let's use the regular verb machen as an example. So machen means to make or to do. So if you have the ich form, then you just have an e at the end. Ich mache. This is going to be a really common thing, having an e at the end of all your ich verbs. So you got to start having this habit, this pattern where you say ich, and you do say the e that's at the end of any German word. It just makes a sound. Ich mache. Okay, let me grab one paper. And I'll write down the rest of the conjugations for you. So you have ich mache. For the do form, you have an st. So du machst. And for the sie s form, he, she, and it, that's just a t. So it'd be macht. Macht Kaffee. Ich mache Kaffee. Du machst Kaffee. And then the wir form and the z form and the big Z form, those are all en endings. So those are going to match the infinitive all the time. You don't have to worry too much about those three forms. So I've got this chart here. Let's see. So we've got I for ich. That's the first person singular. Second person singular informal. You've got st. Third person singular, just a t. Those three en ones you don't have to worry too much about, right? Wir machen, sie machen. You'll get in the habit of the wir and sie always being the en. But this one in the middle with the t, that's ihr. So that is the informal plural you, like you guys or y'all if you're from the South, or yous guys if you're from another part of the U.S. So these conjugations, these are the regular verb conjugations. And this is going to be something that you'll want to commit to memory as soon as you can because it's really useful. So anytime that you have a verb in German, you're going to find out whether it's regular or not. The majority of them are regular, but the really, really common ones are irregular, like haben and sein. So you'll have to decide, or well, you have to find out as you learn new words, is this regular or not? And if you don't know, then you always assume that it's going to be regular and just try to conjugate it that way. So those are just the basic conjugations of verbs. Verbs in German always go in second position in the sentence if it's just a declarative sentence. If it's a question, then it gets switched around. So you could say, ich gehe, for I go. Or you could ask someone else, gehst du? And those are just flipped around, inverted subject and verb to ask a question. I think that about covers the basics of nouns and verbs. There are, of course, adjectives in German, and a lot of the adjectives, which are words that describe some noun, so like fast, slow, tall, short, long, interesting, boring, all those things, a lot of those serve as adverbs in German as well. So for example, gut, good. In English we have good and well. So technically when someone asks you how you're doing, you should say, I'm well, I'm doing well, because it's an adverb. But we don't really do that with good and well, at least not colloquially when we're just speaking with friends. So in German, you don't even have to worry about it. Gut is gut, so es geht mir gut, Pizza ist gut, Kaffee ist gut, those things you can probably figure out. It's all just gut, whether it's an adverb or not. I think those are just the basic parts of speech that I want to cover right now. We'll get into different ones later as we go through the course, but that should give you a solid foundation on the basics. So if you have questions, do let me know. You can comment on the video or you can email me if you're one of my students, and I will see you next time.